Welcome to Betsytown, Elizabeth City, Queen of the Albemarle, the historic port at the Narrows of the Pasquotank River, and my boyhood home. The town got its start on the site of Betsy Tooley's Tavern in 1793, as the digging began on the Dismal Swamp Canal 15 miles to the north. For over 2 centuries, all manner of craft, lighters and barges, tugboats and tankers, schooners, scows, sailboats, yachts and canoes going between the Albemarle Sound and Chesapeake Bay have plied these waters. Elizabeth City boasts one of the largest historic districts anywhere. Several antebellum commercial buildings still remain, representing Italianate, Greek Revival, and Gothic Revival styles. Along West Main, there is no shortage of Queen Anne and East Lake homes from the Victorian era. A number of side streets from a century ago are still as they were then, paved with brick. My great-great-grandfather, Thomas Bland, built this Greek Revival home for his Camden County bride, Virginia Casey, about 1853. When the Union gunboats shelled Elizabeth City in early 1862, a Yankee cannonball lodged in an upstairs bedroom wall. Tom Bland dug it out, put a chain on it, and for many years to come, used it as a hitching weight for horses. In my boyhood, I knew the house well, as my great-uncle Harold and great-aunt Jenny's home, where a little goldfish pond and a swing under a scuppernong arbor out back always beckoned, and where I was always welcome. Downtown on East Main Street, the 1897 Lowry Chesson department store building has now become the Arts of the Albemarle Center with a wonderful first-floor gallery. Some of the second-floor spaces, including my granddaddy Simpson's old law office, have been turned into theatrical dressing rooms. The old Academy of Music Opera House on the 2nd and 3rd floors, now fully restored as the McGuire Theater, is a key part of this triumphant community effort, 10 years in the making. In 2006, Folks Hereabouts celebrated the opening of the striking Museum of the Albemarle, across from which stands an historical marker noting the role of the Pasquotank and the Dismal Swamp Canal as important parts of the Underground Railroad, the route runaway slaves traveled north toward freedom. My first awareness of Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World, was as a grand palace, the Virginia Dare Hotel on Elizabeth City's South McMorran Street, a 9-story, blonde-bricked 100-room wonder that opened up way back in 1927, charging $2 a room. The 2-story base of our eye-catching hotel has a balustrade with urns, and inside was a ballroom and a dining room where we ate fried chicken on Sundays with linen napkins in our laps. Now an apartment building, it was the Albemarle's first skyscraper. 80 years after it was built, it is the Albemarle's only skyscraper. Next door, the skylighted Virginia Dare Arcade features wrought iron railing and tiled floor, and above its Main Street entryway, a decorative cartouche emblematic of Raleigh's Roanoke voyages. If you'd been looking down on Main Street from up here on August 18, 1937, you couldn't have missed the excitement. President Franklin D. Roosevelt drove by in an open touring car, which stopped at the Water Street Wharf where the president caught a Coast Guard cruiser for Roanoke Island. He was going down to see The Lost Colony, a brand new outdoor drama by Paul Green on the 350th anniversary of Virginia Dare's birth. The old town is home to another of North Carolina's great unsolved mysteries, dating to the moonlit November night in 1901, when young Nell Cropsey walked out onto the porch of her family's riverside home with Jim Wilcox, her beau of 3 years, and disappeared. Jim said he left her crying on her porch and went on home. But when Nell turned up dead in the river 5 weeks later, the townspeople mobbed and nearly lynched Wilcox. The national press had a field day with the case of beautiful Nell Cropsey. And Jim Wilcox was found guilty of her murder here in this courtroom and sentenced to hang. There had been attempts to disturb Jim's trial, though, and after the state Supreme Court threw it out, a second trial found him guilty of murder in the second degree. Wilcox was freed from prison by Governor Bickett's pardon in 1918, and he came back here, lived as a sad outcast, and then died by his own hand in 1934, having never made any public declaration beyond what he said about leaving Nell on her porch. No one will ever know what really happened that November night back in 1901. As Elizabeth City was falling to that Union naval attack in February 1862, the old courthouse caught fire, and a citizen named Arthur Jones drove his wagon to the courthouse door, raced in and pulled all the Pasquotank County records out of the doomed building and hauled them off and hid them in a barn for safekeeping. Thanks to Mr. Jones's quick, energetic action and his unusual stewardship, those old records and many more now reside in the new Pasquotank County Courthouse, which dates to 1882. The Wright brothers passed through town numerous times in the early 1900s on the way to Kitty Hawk and the invention of powered flight. In the 1920s, on Michele Island just over the river from town, the Foreman Blades Corporation produced float planes like the Kingfisher. The Elizabeth City Coast Guard Air Station began maritime rescue operations in August 1940. And early in World War II, the U.S. Navy's blimp base came into being at Weeksville, just a couple miles below the Coast Guard station, set down by Newbegun Creek as headquarters for anti-submarine operations. When one of the two gigantic blimp hangars burned in 1995, the blaze lit up the night sky so brightly that folks saw it in Columbia, on the south side of the Albemarle Sound, nearly 30 miles away. The Navy's long gone from the Riverside base, but at the remaining hangar, with its enormous clamshell doors, a private company named TCOM still operates and says it's the only lighter-than-air firm in the world with a facility solely devoted to building and flight testing aerostats and airships. Next time you find yourself in North Carolina's northeastern province, why not ease back on the throttle and take a look around Betsytown? It's known far and wide as the harbor of hospitality, and there's likely a slip, a berth, a home on the river for a night or two awaiting you in Elizabeth City on the dark and captivating Pasquotank River.